There are things you cannot understand until you have lived long enough. I do not mean things you cannot learn. Learning is for books and classrooms and conversations. Understanding is different. Understanding is what happens when a truth you heard at 20 finally lands in your body at 60. You heard the words decades ago. You nodded. You agreed. You maybe even repeated them to someone else. But you did not understand them, because understanding requires experience, and experience requires time, and time is the one thing that cannot be rushed or borrowed or faked. You either have it or you don't. And you, sitting here right now, watching this with 60 or 70 or 80 years behind you, you have it. You have the one thing that every young person wishes they could buy and every old person wishes they had valued sooner. Time lived. And that time lived has given you access to truths that are invisible to anyone who has not crossed the same number of years. Today I am going to name 5 of them. 5 things that only become real after 60. 5 things that younger people can hear with their ears but cannot feel in their chest. 5 things that are yours now, earned, paid for, in full, with decades. My grandmother said that wisdom is not something you find. It is something that finds you. But it only finds you after you have been looking long enough. She said a young person can read every book ever written and still not understand what an old person understands from one afternoon of sitting quietly and watching the light change on a wall. Because the book gives information, the years give knowing, and knowing and information are not the same thing. Information tells you that the sun rises in the east. Knowing tells you what it feels like to watch the sun rise on the morning after you buried someone you love, and to feel, against all logic, that the world is still beautiful. That knowing cannot be taught. It can only be earned. By surviving enough mornings to understand that the sun does not care about your grief. It rises anyway. And somehow, that rising is not cruel. It is kind. It is the world saying, I am still here. And so are you. And that is enough. A young person cannot feel that, not because they are stupid, because they have not buried enough people yet to know what the sunrise means on the morning after. The first thing you can only understand after 60 is that most of what you worried about never happened. This is not a new idea. You have heard it before. You have probably said it yourself. You might have even read a quote about it on the internet. But hearing it and understanding it are different experiences entirely. At 30, when someone told you most of your worries would never come true, you nodded and then went right back to worrying. Because at 30, the worries felt real. They felt necessary. They felt like the only thing standing between you and disaster. If I stop worrying, the bad thing will come. That was the belief. Worry was your armor. Anxiety was your watchman. And you paid them faithfully, with sleep and peace and years of your life, to stand guard against disasters that almost never arrived. Now, at 60 or 70, you can look back, and you can see the full picture for the first time. You can see every night you didn't sleep because of something that resolved itself by Tuesday. Every stomach ache that was caused not by the thing you were worried about, but by the worrying itself. Every argument you rehearsed in your head that never happened in real life. Every worst-case scenario that you lived through 100 times in your mind and 0 times in the world. The worry was not a shield. The worry was the wound. The thing you were protecting yourself from was almost never as painful as the protection itself. And only now, only after decades of evidence, can you finally say with your whole body and not just your mouth, I wasted years on things that never came. That is not a lesson you can teach a 30-year-old. They will hear you, they will believe you, and they will go home and worry anyway, because they have not yet accumulated enough evidence to feel the truth. You have. And that evidence, that mountain of survived worries, is the first gift your age gave you. I knew a man named Arthur who worried his entire life about money, about health, about his children, about the weather, about things that hadn't happened and things that might happen and things that probably wouldn't happen, but what if they did? And Arthur's worry consumed him the way a fire consumes wood. By the time he was 65, Arthur was exhausted, not from living, from worrying about living. And one day Arthur sat on his porch and his grandson, who was 8 years old, asked him a question. He said, "Grandpa, what are you thinking about?" And Arthur started to answer with whatever worry was occupying his mind that hour. And then he stopped, because he realized he couldn't remember. The worry was there, grinding away, producing heat and smoke and exhaustion, but he could not actually name what it was about. The machinery of worry was running, but there was nothing in the machine. It was grinding on air. And Arthur laughed. For the first time in years, Arthur laughed, because he saw it. Finally, after 65 years. The machine was empty. It had always been empty. He had spent a lifetime fueling a machine that was processing nothing, and the 8-year-old boy staring up at him with clear, calm eyes had never turned the machine on in the first place, because the boy didn't know the machine existed yet, and Arthur envied him. And then Arthur did something radical. He turned the machine off, not perfectly, not permanently, but more than he ever had before. And the quiet that followed was the loudest relief he had ever felt. Before I share the next teaching, I need to tell you something. I am not going to be here forever, and most of what I know was never written anywhere. So I sat down and I wrote it, all of it. 20 teachings, 4 parts, in the order they were meant to be received. The ones about seeing what only years can reveal. The ones about trusting what your age has taught you. The ones I have never said on camera. It is called The Native Way, and it costs less than one dinner you will not remember. Scan the code on your screen or look in the comments, but do not leave yet, because the next 4 things are truths that took me my entire life to understand, and I don't want you to wait as long as I did. The second thing you can only understand after 60 is that very few people were thinking about you as much as you thought they were. This one takes decades to land because when you are young, you believe you are the center of everyone's attention. You believe they are watching you, judging you, noticing what you wear and what you say and how you walk, and whether you made a mistake at the meeting. And you adjust everything about yourself based on this belief. You dress for them. You speak for them. You perform for them. You shrink for them. You expand for them. You become whatever you think their eyes require you to be. And then one day, after 60 years of performing for an audience that you assumed was watching, you realize something that is both humiliating and liberating at the same time. They weren't watching. They were performing too. Every person you were adjusting yourself for was adjusting themselves for someone else. The whole room was full of performers, and the audience was empty. Nobody was watching because everybody was too busy being watched. And the realization that you spent decades editing yourself for an audience that didn't exist is the most freeing discovery a person can make. It is humiliating because you wasted so much time. And it is liberating because you can finally stop. The performance is over. The theater is empty. And you can walk out into the daylight looking exactly the way you actually look, saying exactly what you actually think, being exactly who you actually are. Without adjustment, without editing, without the exhausting daily labor of pretending. That freedom is only available after 60, because before 60 you still believe someone is watching. I knew a woman named Pearl who wore the same shade of lipstick for 43 years. Not because she loved it, because a man at a party in 1961 told her it looked nice. One compliment from one stranger at one party, and Pearl wore that color for 43 years. She was performing for a man whose name she couldn't remember, whose face she had forgotten, who probably died 20 years ago. And the day Pearl realized this, she was standing in front of her bathroom mirror, holding the lipstick, and she started laughing. The same laugh Arthur had on his porch. The laugh of a person who finally sees the absurdity. She had been dressing for a ghost of a compliment from 1961. And she put the lipstick down, and she went to the store, and she bought a color she had always wanted to try but never did because it was too bold. And she wore it home, and nobody said a word. Nobody noticed, because nobody had been watching for 43 years. She was the only one keeping track. And the day she stopped keeping track was the day she started living for herself instead of for a ghost. The third thing you can only understand after 60 is that the people who stayed are the only ones who mattered. When you are young, you grieve every loss equally. The friend who drifted away, the romance that ended, the family member who stopped calling. Every departure feels like a verdict on your worth. But after 60, you have enough departures behind you to see the pattern. And the pattern reveals something beautiful. The people who were supposed to be in your life are still in your life. Not because you held them, not because you begged them, not because you performed well enough to keep them, because they chose to stay. Freely, without being asked, through your worst years, through your ugliest moments, through the seasons when you had nothing to offer and they showed up anyway. Those people, the ones who survived every filter that time applied, are your real people. And their number is small, and their value is beyond calculation. It took you 60 years to see this, because at 20 you measured your worth by how many people surrounded you. At 60, you measure your worth by who remained after the crowd left. And the ones who remained are worth more than every person who ever walked away combined. My grandfather had a teaching about this that I didn't understand until I was well past 60 myself. He said, "A young man counts his horses, an old man counts his friends, and the old man always has a smaller number, but the old man's number is honest. The young man's horses might run away, the young man's crowd might scatter in a storm, but the old man's friends, the 2 or 3 or 4 people who are still standing next to him after the storms and the droughts and the winters and the years, those people are not going anywhere. They have been tested by time, and time is the only test that matters. Everything else is audition. A new friend is an audition. A new relationship is an audition. Only time tells you whether the audition becomes a permanent role. And by 60, the auditions are over. The cast is set. And the people still on stage with you are the ones who earned their place. Not with grand gestures, with presence. Consistent, boring, unglamorous presence. The kind of presence that shows up on the unremarkable Tuesday, not just the dramatic Saturday. Those people are your treasure, and the fact that their number is small is not a sign of your failure. It is a sign of their value. Diamonds are not valuable because there are many of them. Diamonds are valuable because there are few. The fourth thing you can only understand after 60 is that your body was never the point. When you were young, your body is your identity, your strength, your beauty, your speed, your capability. You are what your body can do. And when the body starts to slow, when the strength fades and the beauty changes and the speed drops and the capability narrows, it feels like you are fading, like the essential you is deteriorating along with the muscle and the bone. But after 60, if you are paying attention, you discover something remarkable. As the body diminished, something else grew. Your perception deepened. Your patience expanded. Your compassion widened. Your understanding of people and life and the world became richer and more nuanced than it ever was when your body was at its peak. It is as if the energy that used to go toward the body got redirected toward the spirit. The body was never the point. The body was the vehicle, and the vehicle is wearing out. But the driver inside the vehicle has never been more awake, more aware, more capable of seeing the road clearly. Your best thinking is happening now. Your deepest feeling is happening now. Your clearest seeing is happening now. Inside a body that the world considers past its prime. And that paradox, the declining body housing the expanding soul, is one of the most beautiful secrets of aging. The world sees the wrinkles and assumes decline. You feel the depth and know the truth. The best of you is not behind you. The best of you is sitting inside a body that looks like it's finished, doing the finest work it has ever done, in silence, without applause, without anyone noticing, the way all the best work has always been done. The fifth thing you can only understand after 60 is that love was the only thing that was ever real. Everything else was decoration. The career was decoration. The house was decoration. The car was decoration. The title was decoration. The achievements and the trophies and the milestones and the bank account and the reputation, all of it, every single thing you chased and caught and held up and said, "Look what I built," all of it was decoration. The only real thing, the only thing that followed you through every chapter and survived every loss and meant something on the morning after every funeral and still means something right now as you sit here with your decorated life behind you, is love. The love you gave, the love you received, the love you carry inside you for people who are gone, the love that shows up uninvited at 2 in the morning and makes you cry for no reason except that you are alive and you remember what it felt like to be held by someone who meant it. Love. That is the only thing that was ever real. And you could not understand that at 30, because at 30, the decoration was too shiny, the career was too loud, the ambition was too hungry, the world was too demanding, and love, which is quiet and small and does not compete for attention, got pushed to the background. But now that the career is over, and the house is too big, and the car doesn't matter, and the title expired, now you can hear love, because love is the only thing still speaking. Everything else went silent, and in that silence, love's voice is the clearest sound you have ever heard, and you understand, finally, that it was speaking the whole time. You just couldn't hear it over the noise of everything that didn't matter. I want to tell you when I understood this, because it was a specific moment, not a gradual realization, a moment. I was sitting in a hospital room with a man I had known for decades, a man who had built a business, a man who had earned money and respect and a reputation and all the things the world says you should want. And now he was dying. And none of it was in the room. The business was not in the room. The money was not in the room. The reputation was not in the room. You know what was in the room. His wife, holding his hand. That was it. That was the whole room. A man and a woman, and the love between them. Everything he had built in 68 years of living had been reduced to one hand holding another. And in that reduction, the truth was visible. The career didn't show up. The bank account didn't show up. The awards and the achievements and the titles and the properties didn't show up. Love showed up. Love was the only thing that showed up for the final scene, and it will be the only thing that shows up for yours. When the room gets small and the lights get low and everything falls away, the only thing still standing will be love. Not the memory of love, love itself, in the room, holding your hand. The way it has been trying to hold your hand your entire life, if only you had stopped building long enough to reach for it. My grandmother understood this without needing a hospital room to teach her. She understood it the way she understood everything, by watching. She watched people chase money, and she watched the money leave. She watched people chase fame, and she watched the fame fade. She watched people chase power, and she watched the power transfer to someone younger and hungrier. And she watched people love, quietly, without chasing, without building, just loving. And the love never left. The love was the only thing she ever saw that never diminished with time. Everything else had a half-life. Money halved, fame halved, power halved, beauty halved, strength halved. But love doubled. Every year of love made the love larger. Every act of love added to the total. Love was the only investment she ever saw that never lost value. And she said to me once, "When you are old enough to understand this, you will stop building and start loving." And the day you stop building and start loving is the day your real life begins. 5 things. Most of what you worried about never happened. Nobody was watching as much as you thought. The people who stayed are the only ones who mattered. Your body was never the point, and love was the only thing that was ever real. 5 truths that took 60 years to arrive. Not because they were far away, because you weren't ready for them yet. You are ready now. And the readiness itself is the gift, not the truths, the readiness, the capacity to receive what life has been trying to give you since the beginning. That capacity is not youth, it is age. And age, despite everything the world tells you, is not the end of understanding. It is the beginning. If what you heard today stayed with you, the book is there. The Native Way, 20 teachings, 100 pages, written the way I would speak to you if we were sitting together. Scan the QR code on the screen with your phone or find the link in the comments. Read 1 chapter. Sit with it. Now I want to hear from you. Tell me in the comments which of these 5 truths took you the longest to understand. I read every comment. And if this is the kind of conversation you have been looking for, subscribe to this channel. We are not collecting viewers here. We are collecting people who remember. Come back next week. I am not done teaching yet.